Hello and welcome to Greenwich Market in southeast London. Today we're going to try pie and mash, which is a true English speciality from the East End of London. It's something that Londoners certainly know about, but if I talk to my friends from France or Germany when they're visiting Britain, they always ask to be taken to the best fish and chip shop in the area, or perhaps they'd also like to try an English Sunday roast. But very rarely, if ever, have they asked me, hey, can we go and have pie and mash, and by the way, perhaps some jellied eels on the side. Well, today here in Greenwich we're going to go and try that delicious cocktail of dishes, and also at the same time find out a little bit more about its history. The traditional pie and mash shop is actually just around the corner from Greenwich Market, which is undercover and gives some respite from the elements. And the shop we're going to is Goddard's of Greenwich, and it's a particularly popular pie and mash establishment with locals. Sitting down at last with the pie and mash and jellied eels. Now the tradition here, not only at Goddard's but all of the pie and mash shops, is to eat the eel alongside the pie and mash. After all, originally the pie wouldn't have had minced beef in it, it would have had eels in it. And for those who are squeamish, you'll be pleased to know that also this famous sauce, the liquor as it's called, which is made of finely chopped parsley, would have previously in the past had eel in it as well. Not the case anymore. So let's see what it's like. But I'm definitely checked out, and you definitely eat the eel at the same time as the pie and mash. So let's go, let's have a look. Also, tradition is that the pie should be turned upside down. So let's do that. You can see crisp pastry on the top, and then it's softer here. And some nice mash. Looks a bit like it was served at school, but it looks good. I'm going to try the mash first, actually, in the liquor. That's great. I love the taste of parsley in that, which is obviously very distinct, but it's kind of slightly creamy as well, which is super with the mash, which is lovely and smooth potato, but isn't really buttered. So that goes tremendously well. Now let's just try and break the pie apart. Oh, look at that. You can see the minced beef in there quite well. There's lots of it as well. Just taste it on its own with a bit of the pastry. It's really nice. It's got a lovely gravy as well. It's rich. Now let's try a little bit with the liquor and potato all together. Pastry is good. Quite crisp on the bottom. Wow. That all goes together very well. But I was also told by the lady serving me that the critical element is actually to put lots of vinegar, plain vinegar and chili vinegar on your pie and mash. So I'm going to do that generously. I hope I'm not overdoing it. Let's see what that brings. Perhaps a little bit of salt as well. There we go. Can really smell that vinegar. It's not fish and chips, is it? But let's see if it works. Oh, I'm having problems cutting the pastry. Oh yeah, it adds an added sharpness, an unexpected sharpness perhaps to the whole pie experience, but it's good. Unique. Now, true to my word, I'm going to eat the eels alongside. And to be straightforward with you, actually, eels aren't new to me. The pie and mash is, but not the eels. I used to eat them at Millwall football ground. And I used to go to games there after I did a show online for them. And of course that's part of the southeast London traditions as well. Now let's see what this tastes like. Basically the eel is cut into these little sections, and then it's stewed and boiled for hours. It's a naturally gelatinous fish, so it forms the jelly. You see, I think that tastes great. A lot of people are put by eel, but Actually, the flavour is not a strong flavour, it's a really mild flavour. Milder than herring, for example. And although it's fishy, it's not that strong. And you know, we have 5 senses of taste. We have basically salty, sweet, sour, savoury, something else, is it bitter? Well, anyhow, in Japan, they also have umami, which is used to describe this type of fish uniquely, eel. So I can get away with saying I don't know how to describe the taste. It's umami. It's great. Careful with the bones though. They're giving me another bowl to put them in. And look, even though I've opened up the pie and it's been with me now for a few minutes, it's still piping hot, really good. And the mince is so finely cut. Just a quick note, coming back to you, I really am enjoying these eels, and it's strange that they're not really that popular in the UK anymore, because once upon a time they really were, particularly here in the East End of London. But of course we shouldn't forget, they're still extremely popular in Japan, where eel is glazed with a kind of soy sauce, a sweet soy sauce, and used with sushi, and also very popular in its smoked variety in Scandinavian countries. In fact, I've had that quite a lot when I've been in Scandinavia as well. I love it. It's kind of oily, it's smoked, and it's a lovely consistency. So I think the eel is much underrated, and that in its own right is a good reason to pop down to your local pie and mash shop and try some eel now. Don't be squeamish, they're great. You come to a place like this with famous English dishes and you can't resist. I mean, the dessert they offer you, and I think it's at just £5.20, a choice of traditional bread and butter pudding, pies with cherries or apples in them, and there's also crumbles, and a choice of apple crumble or rhubarb crumble, which I have to say I normally love, or apple and blackberry, and that's the one that I've chosen. Here it is, look at that, absolutely covered in custard, a total treat. Can't wait to get started. Right, now let's get right into it. I have to say, all of the food has been piping hot, because when you're filming for a vlog, sometimes you leave it for a couple of minutes to take pretty pictures and things like that, and still it's piping hot. Now the surface is quite strong to break through, quite hard to break through, is the right way to say that. But lots of nice crumble, and underneath that, oh, you can see the apple and the luscious red for the blackberry. And now just put some custard on it. That is a lovely crumble. Really crispy, crumbly, buttery top. And a nice long-lasting taste. Very sweet, fruit-filling, lovely flavour of apple, tempered by the blackberry, and the custard. Looks a bit lumpy, but it tastes creamy. It makes the whole thing a beautiful, creamy, smooth eating experience. This is great. This is crumble the way it should be. Really, tourists should be filling out these places, because if you really want true English food, this is the place to come. There are a lot of places to choose from in Greenwich, but this is pretty empty for a Friday lunchtime. And all I can do is say I recommend it. Visitors from around the UK, from Europe, from the States, you're missing out if you don't try. I'm outside Goddard's now. I've had a thoroughly good meal, and let's just see how expensive it was. It was £6.20 for the pie, mash and liquor, and £5.50 for the jellied eels, which I suppose are a speciality these days. £1 for a bottle of water, which is unbelievably fair. You can't get it for that price in a supermarket these days. And £5.20 for the crumble with all of that deliciously creamy custard. So when you take all that into account, that comes to what? A total of just under £17, I think. And frankly, if you go to many fast food places these days, certainly the upmarket ones, you'll pay that much money, and this is a whole load better. You're talking about culinary tradition here. It's really the quintessential London traditional meal, and it can be yours, not just here, but at other wonderful pie and mash shops for a very fair price. If you're in London, it's an absolute no-brainer that you should try it too. I thought that was all over long ago. Not again, surely. As we stroll around Greenwich Market, a little bit of history about pie and mash. Well, first of all, Charles Dickens said in the early 19th century that poverty and oysters seem to accompany each other. And in this little area in Greenwich, we've got oysters and eels in the space of 50 square metres. Definitely not poor man's food today. Anyhow, that was quite different back in the 19th century. And eels were plentiful in the River Thames because they could survive all of the dirt and the filth. And they were actually fished all the way up to Tower Bridge, believe it or not. And these pies with mashed potato and liquor sauce, that's that parsley and eel sauce, were a staple of a working man's lunchtime break. And eventually these pie and mash shops established themselves up to a peak of around about 300 shops. The tradition carried on, but as eels became an endangered species and more expensive, the pies became meat pies, and perhaps you'd have jellied eels served on the side. Then as time has gone by, this tradition has remained popular in East London. At the end of the First World War, there were 100 pie and mash shops. But clearly, foreigners and visitors to London don't know pie and mash like they know fish and chips or Sunday roast, let's say. And The Economist actually had an article in January 2025 saying that it could see this industry being in danger as another pie and mash shop had closed in Deptford. And nowadays, there are only around about 40 left. Of course, there's huge competition. Fast food shops, mid-range restaurants. But this is a tradition that, on the basis of what I've experienced, should prosper, and that we should all do well to propagate.
My memories of pie and mash are going to Woolwich with my mum when I was a child, and there used to be a very old, seedy looking cafe that had been there for years and years, and going there with my mum, loving the pie and mash, hating the liquor.
What about the eels?
Never had eels, never had the eels, well no. But yeah, the pie and mash was lovely, and it was always sort of a staple of my mum's when she was a child as well. So, but we have pie and mash at home now, but not in the same way that you get in the shops.
Does pie and mash have a future?
Oh, I hope so, because it'd be really sad if it completely dies out. I think it will. It's becoming sort of trendy now, I think. People are sort of coming back to it, and places like Greenwich obviously are really important because you get tourists that may not have heard of pie and mash, and I'm sure once they taste it, because it's so good, the one here, that they'll love it and hopefully tell everyone about it, and they might pop up in America or somewhere, who knows. You might get a pie and mash shop in New York.
Oysters were similar.
They were.
A dozen oysters was the same cost as a quarter of a loaf of bread.
Yeah, peasant food.
So what do you think about oysters?
I can't stand oysters, but I love the shells, so I decorate
sorry, you can't
them.
Stand oil,
I don't
oysters.
like oysters. No, I don't like them.
They are actually your livelihood.
Sort of, yes. But I do love the shells. If you look at the back of an oyster shell, it's beautiful. It's like a little ceramic bowl.
Yeah.
And when you decorate them, they just look really stunning as little ornaments or little trinket bowls.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
So do you have to do a lot of work to? They're free, yes. Well, they're not free here. No, but they're really beautiful. So does it take a lot of work to clean them up?
It does. Well, I get most of them from Whitstable,
Okay.
and they are left in a bucket of bleach and water overnight. And then I have a little scrubbing brush that I scrub them with and rinse them, leave them to dry, and then I coat them with a gesso paint to prepare them before I decorate them. And it's quite a therapeutic process, actually. It's a really nice process. In the summer, it's lovely. Not so good in the winter. And then I decoupage them, or I hand paint them.
Yeah.
And it's just a really lovely. They just end up looking really beautiful. I like them, and obviously all my driftwood and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what you can pick up off the beach. I do find oyster shells on the River Thames, but the shells that you find on the Thames are flat because they're very old, so they're very flat, so you can't really use them as trinket bowls.
We should just remind ourselves as well that Goddard's and Greenwich Market are in a fantastic area as well, with loads of attractions. It's only a short walk to the Royal Observatory at Greenwich, where Greenwich Mean Time is measured from, or where I am right now in front of the Old Naval College on the River Thames, which is shrouded in low hanging cloud right now. And from there it's just a few steps on this side of the river to the Cutty Sark as well. So when you come and have your pie and mash, there's plenty of space to walk it all off in. And right, so having now seen the Cutty Sark, I'm standing at the entrance to the foot tunnel at Greenwich underneath the Thames. It was built in the early 1900s, and Mum, it's a great place for me to walk off the calories from lunch. Whew, tough going under the river and up those steps. If you enjoyed the film, you might want to watch more. Up here you can see my crossing on the Viking line from Estonia to Helsinki in Finland, and up here on the other side is a link to my recent film, the 15-minute walking tour of Sofia. Hope to see you on one of those films all soon. Thanks ever so much for being here. Bye!